14-year-old Caleb Rijos was stabbed and killed while standing on a sidewalk in the Mott Haven neighborhood of the Bronx. And tonight, we're getting a look at the man who police say did it. Take a look here. Police escorted Waldo Mejia out of the 40th precinct today. He is accused of killing Rijos.
Waldo Mejia yelling profanities at reporters this afternoon.
And I'm a beat like a when I catch out.
Police say Mejia stabbed an innocent 14-year-old Caleb Rijos to death Friday morning.
So that man that you saw in the perp walk being loaded into the police vehicle and cursing up a storm while that was happening is called Waldo Mejia, who unsurprisingly is a mentally unwell repeat offender with multiple different arrests that was not held accountable by the system. So he ultimately ended up hunting down a 14-year-old boy called Caleb Rijos as he walked to school, stabbing him multiple times, and ultimately ended up killing him, according to police. Now, what makes this story even more tragic is that apparently Caleb Rijos called his father because he was scared, and he told him that he felt like he couldn't breathe before he ultimately ended up dying. So his father actually heard him pass away over the phone. Now, we got to talk about this. We got to break this down. I'm actually really sorry to the family that I missed this story because it's from a couple of months ago, but it's absolutely crucial that you understand another failure of bail reform, another failure of the mental health system in the city and in the state of New York. But before we do, I want to thank everybody who supports this channel via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay?
In Williamsbridge, a gathering of friends mourning the loss of Caleb Rijos, just 14 years old and violently stabbed on his way to school Friday morning. An unprovoked attack by a stranger.
He was smart. He'll always excel people's expectations, and he'll always try hardest to be the best. New York judicial system failed Caleb.
So that right there was footage from the vigil that members of this Bronx community ended up having from Caleb right there. And even though the words came out of that child's mouth, they're 100% right. They're 100% salient. The system did fail Caleb. The system fails New Yorkers each and every day. And this is because we have instituted this soft on crime mindset, this not prosecute anyone for anything, never actually remove mentally ill people from the streets. And that ultimately ended up resulting in the tragic death of this 14-year-old boy. And I have to give credit where credit is due, because I will criticize people for only coming out into the streets for the unicorn cases or the double unicorn cases of a black person being killed at the hands of a white police officer. But the community leaders here are absolutely sick of what is going on in the Bronx, where, by the way, they have a district attorney that is potentially worse than the district attorney in Manhattan, Alvin Bragg, the one that you know all too well by now by all the videos on my channel. And their language is not ambiguous about who and what system is at fault.
Today's rally, organized by the Bronx Youth Empowerment Program, which Caleb took part in during middle school, its leader moved to tears.
We can no longer let our children die at the senseless act of idiots on the street. We're begging everybody to do the right thing and protect our children.
Look, I love the passion. I love the fire from this guy right here. Again, he is a leader in an organization that Caleb actually participated in as a middle schooler, and he wants the system to actually protect people, get these idiots off the streets, as he said so eloquently right there. And you could see the emotion is really hitting him. He's being moved to tears, and that is totally understandable. It is hard for me to hear that this kid called his father to tell him that he felt like he was losing breath, and his father has to live with the last thing that he ever heard from his kid is him passing away on the phone. And the fact that this was random, the fact that this was unprovoked, the fact that this was eminently preventable is all the more worse for this particular case.
Police say the suspect, Waldo Mejia, was carrying the bloody knife he used to kill Rijos when they arrested him on Saturday. The 29-year-old suspect told the judge he was with Satan. The judge ordered a mental exam, and Rijos wasn't the only one stabbed. 6 days earlier, police say Mejia also stabbed a person in the arm at the 138th Street subway station, just a block from where Rijos was murdered. And before that, authorities say he stabbed a neighbor's Ring camera. His rap sheet includes lighting a home on fire and gun possession, and yet Mejia had been released released to the streets.
So to be clear, this isn't an instance where we have somebody with a laundry list of arrests. As you can see, there are 4 right here. But the key arrest, the one that is absolutely crucial for you to understand, is that 2024 arrest, the most recent one, because it was actually in November of 2024 where this guy approached the neighbor's ring cam. Again, he's obviously doing so in a threatening manner. He has a knife out on him, on his person, and he decides to stab the ring cam. You have it on video right there. Everybody can see it. He is known to be mentally unwell. He has a criminal history where the offenses are serious. Possession of a gun 2015, taken very seriously back then in New York City. Possession of a loaded gun 2017, should have been taken very seriously. And then we have burglary and arson, where he lit the resident's home on fire after he did the burglary. And then you follow it up with, again, stabbing the neighbor's ring camera in an obviously threatening manner. And again, this guy was known to be mentally unwell. He was known to have mental issues. In fact, he even told the judge when he was arrested that he was with Satan that day, and the judge ordered a mental health evaluation. But of course, New York did what New York always does. They were like, oh, well, stabbing a video camera, even though you have a lengthy history of violence and extreme violence with weapons and whatnot, we're not going to take that all that seriously. You're going to get a same-day automatic release. Guy that we know to be mentally ill is going to be released on his own recognizance the next day after that November incident. And what ultimately ended up happening? He committed a stabbing early January, to which he was not arrested for, in a subway station. And then he spots this 14-year-old kid has the devil with him, according to himself, and he stabs that kid to death multiple times. The kid's just trying to run away, trying to get to safety, and he just wouldn't stop. He wouldn't relent.
We're begging society to do better by our children.
Today, a different kind of release. 14 balloons released into the sky, one for each year of Caleb's life.
We have to do something to change, the laws of why he got killed and the person who killed him.
Caleb's friends know that new laws will not bring their friend back, but they do hope to make inroads when it comes to change in Caleb's name.
Look, I really do appreciate this activist guy for saying the right things, advocating for the right things, and I understand that these kids are moved by this, but like I said, as a general rule, we don't take children all that seriously in terms of politics, even though, to be clear, they're advocating for the right position. That being said, I also want to add that by all accounts, Caleb Rijos was a sweet kid, got good grades in school, was beloved, obviously had a good family life, a connection with his father. That was the first person that he reached out to for help, and his life was cut down, and that is a traumatic experience that each and every one of these students that knew him, that were part of this organization, that went to school with him, have to carry with them for the rest of their lives. The least we could do is change our bail reform laws. The least we could do is change our laws around mentally ill people that commit serious violent crimes, that commit threatening crimes. Again, you know he's mentally ill. The standard supposedly for involuntary incapacitation for the mentally ill is a danger to yourself or others. He represented that 4 separate times to which he was arrested for, and yet he was released on his own recognizance. He was allowed to get sweetheart plea deals because, oh my God, innocent Beba Angel Aladdin, how bad would our society be if we actually held Waldo Mejia accountable? Well, let me tell you how bad our society would be. We would have one person who wasn't stabbed in a train station by Waldo Mejia, if the allegations are proven to be true, and Caleb Rijos would be alive. And again, they are allegations. He has yet to be convicted, but they quite literally arrested him with the bloody knife the same night of the crime. And I'm sure that the forensic evidence will indicate that that blood did belong to the 14-year-old Caleb Rijos.
You know, he called his father and told his father that he couldn't breathe and that he was scared. And his father heard him dying.
Rijos ran from his attacker and fell between 2 cars. Good Samaritans rushed in to help.
Several New Yorkers come to his aid, and they flagged down a passing EMS ambulance.
Rijos died at the hospital. Police had been looking for Mejia. He was also wanted for a January 5th subway stabbing. A transit cop recognized Mejia from a wanted poster.
We were able to quickly conclude that these 2 incidents were connected, unprovoked, and committed by the same suspect.
Mejia has a history of mental illness, arrested 4 times since 2015. The 29-year-old most recently arrested in November.
Mr. Mejia was arrested for stabbing another victim's ring camera with a kitchen knife. And importantly, was released on his own recognizance the very next day.
Look, I gotta keep it 100% real with you guys out there in the audience. The new police commissioner for the NYPD has stepped it up in terms of law enforcement since taking the office. We have a surge of NYPD officers into the subways, that they are driving down crime in that particular system, and we have some positive data points to look at, to examine, since, again, we've had a change in leadership. If you guys don't remember, the previous NYPD commissioner was arrested because his twin brother was engaged in like an extortion scheme using his connections in his name in order to do so. Allegedly, not yet been convicted, but the new person seems to be doing what they can do in this particular position. But you know what doesn't help? New York State bail reform law. You can change the leadership. Hell, you could even potentially elect a Republican mayor to the city of New York. But if you don't change the laws, if you don't change the standards, if you don't make it so these people can be held accountable, you're not going to get good results. But what do we see up in Albany? We see Governor Kathy Hochul and the Democrats in the state house and state senate deciding on how much money of ours they're going to blow. Again, the budget is $262 billion, which is more than double the Florida state budget, even though Florida has a larger population. And within that particular budget bill, because of the way New York state politics works, there are actually more criminal justice reforms, more moving in the wrong direction, even though we just had a tragic situation where we had prison guards going on strike due to the fact that Hochul signed the HALT Act, which is really disrupting their ability to do their job. So we're short of those prison guards because they had to be fired because the strike was considered to be illegal. And now we're releasing criminals early under Hochul's orders in response to the short staff that was created by the woke criminal justice reform that they instituted in the first place. And now they're doubling down. They're going in the wrong direction. We have a progressive communist, ridiculous moron running for mayor that's catching up to Andrew Cuomo in the polls, who wants to defund the police in order to create the New York Department of Community Affairs, which is social workers that are supposed to engage with these mentally ill types of people. These people are still pushing under different names for the defund the police and abolish prisons agenda, even though people on the ground's attitudes have changed. We are moving in the correct direction in terms of the people that has been represented by election after election, where Republicans have gained ground in the city and in the state of New York. But these people just won't ever stop. They're never going to stop pushing for this, and it's absolutely disgusting. Again, Caleb Rijos had to die on the phone, talking to his father, telling his father what he was experiencing in the moment, because New York State bail reform couldn't get somebody off the streets who brought a knife to their neighbor's home, ended up stabbing their Ring camera, so it was on video, with a history of violence, with a history, by the way, of burning down residents, with a history of mental illness. All of that didn't matter because the laws are set up so in favor of the criminal. And a lot of people like to talk about mental health. A lot of people like to talk about intervening in these certain situations in order to help these people. But I'm so sick of people talking about that after they commit the serious crime, after they escalate beyond the point of no return. If you wanted to help him, if you wanted to intercede on his behalf, the big, stunning red flag caught in full HD was him stabbing that Ring camera. Once he starts stabbing people, once he starts hurting them, that's when we gotta put the guy away. That's when we gotta lock him up. So it's not compassionate to let these people out time after time after time until they murder somebody or get killed themselves, like in the case of Jordan Neely. It's the opposite. And I'm sick of these people who say mental illness after they commit the serious crime, but when they commit the warning sign crime, they advocate for their freedom. They talk about their civil liberties to wave knives around and threaten to kill people, and then after they kill somebody, they're like, oh, but they're the victim of society, evil white racism, and of course ableism, they're mentally ill. Isn't that so sad? Honestly, shut up. Caleb Rijos should be alive. Look at this kid. Look at how young he looks. Baby-faced kid right here. He died for what? Walking to school because there was a mentally ill person that was unleashed onto the streets time and time again by the city and by the state of New York, by New York State bail reform. It's disgusting and it needs to stop. And all of these people have the right of it, except of course for the politicians up in places like Albany. But you know what? Those are just my thoughts. I want to know what you guys think about this down in the comments below. If you like this video, then show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on the social media, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about the death of Caleb Rijos, who was murdered for no real reason. It was clearly preventable. Till next time.